Did you know you can make more money with higher emotional intelligence? A lot more money, actually. And that's not all. You can do better in your relationships and your friendships. You can climb higher as a leader. Overall, you can do better in life. It elevates your game on every level. So what is emotional intelligence? And how do we get better at it if we want to do better in life? In this video, we're going to explain the origins of emotional intelligence, its 4 major parts, and how you can implement them in your life. We'll focus on how to use them in action and what are the real results you can get. We'll explain emotional intelligence first, then a case study, then explain how it combines with Stoicism. Please consider liking and subscribing if you find value in this. But first, let's explain that value. Everybody, no matter who you are or what you do, has emotions. They are foundational. To be human is to have emotions. But the truth is that most of us struggle with our emotions. Many people act as if they have only 2 choices with emotions: feel everything intensely and be overwhelmed, or shut down completely and act like a robot. But the Stoics found a third option. You can feel deeply and not be numb. You can care about people while also not letting them control you. Together with the more modern concept of emotional intelligence, you have a powerful strategy for succeeding in life. The problem is that when we talk about emotions, things can get messy. For example, if 2 people are in a relationship where they fight every night, how do we talk about who is more emotionally intelligent? What we can do is to try to separate the emotional knot here into its parts. This makes it less messy and more improvable. In fact, it's the ability to break down complex emotional situations that makes the concept of emotional intelligence so helpful. Let's start by defining what emotional intelligence is. Emotional intelligence is a framework for thinking about emotions which was developed by former Yale president Peter Salovey and John Mayer, 2 psychology professors who worked together to come up with this in the 1990s. They identified 4 components that work together to create emotional competency in the modern personality. The 4 parts of the emotional intelligence ability model are: 1. Perceiving emotions. This is your ability to identify and recognize emotions in yourself and others. It includes reading facial expressions, body language, tone of voice, and other emotional cues. People strong in this area can quickly pick up on emotional signals and understand what someone is feeling, even when it's not explicitly stated. 2. Using emotions. This involves harnessing emotions to facilitate thinking and decision-making. Rather than being overwhelmed by feelings, emotionally intelligent people can use their emotions as information to guide their reasoning. For example, feeling excited might signal a good opportunity, while anxiety might indicate the need to take it slow and learn more before acting. 3. Understanding emotions. This is the cognitive component, knowing how emotions work, how they develop and change over time, and understanding the relationships between different emotions. It includes recognizing emotional patterns, understanding what triggers your feelings, and predicting how emotions can evolve in different situations. 4. Managing emotions. This involves regulating emotions in yourself and influencing emotions in others. It's about staying calm under pressure, finding motivation, and helping others manage their emotional states. This includes both controlling negative emotions and enhancing positive ones, depending on the situation. So those are the parts of emotional intelligence which let us see how emotion operates in the whole person. Perceiving, using, understanding and managing emotions. The 4 components of emotional intelligence. Now that you have the fundamentals, let's look at how you might apply this to your own life. Say, there's someone in your life, a family member, or a boss, who you have a tough time around. Sometimes, the solution is very easy. Just spend less time around the person. But sometimes, you can't do that. This is a good case study for how we can use the emotional intelligence framework to help us whenever you have to be around someone. First, see how you perceive your emotions around this person. For example, you might be getting tense and likely to explode the moment they open their mouth. Look into this. What kinds of emotions are you feeling? Are they serving you? Really dig into your emotions and think about what you're feeling at the times you're interacting with this person. Look also at how they're reacting to you, the details of it, and even what's triggering them if the anger is coming from the other direction. This can be hard because they probably cause strong reactions in you. Being around them can feel unpleasant, but that's why it's so important. How someone makes you feel is something you can influence. You have power over that feeling because it's yours, and looking at what you're feeling is the first step towards changing those feelings. Then, look at how you're using the emotions you're feeling. A common first step is to see if there's a knee-jerk automatic action you're making, which could be better. For example, if seeing someone immediately makes you feel anger, think, is this reaction helpful? We shouldn't be angry at someone for existing, and while people may do things that make us angry, getting angry within a minute of seeing someone every time is not healthy. This is an example of an area you'd want to rethink. This is where emotional intelligence can help us. After that, look at how well you understand your emotions. Take this same situation, where we see someone and then become angry. Maybe we have an underlying disagreement with them. What we should do is talk about the disagreement and bring it out into the open. Don't put a bad situation on repeat. Think about it, and then do something to improve it. Remember, our emotions are there to cause change in our lives. They are supposed to be dynamic and cause change, which leads to new emotions, which lead to new changes. A repeating feeling of frustration is a call for change. Many people fall into the same tired scripts in their lives, even though they're not that hard to change. For example, in the case of a difficult person, we're going to see them again, and that means you're going to have tension with them again. It's predictable. We don't need to be blindsided by this every time. We can try new strategies and plot new actions. If the same script repeats all the time, think, what could I change about this? A little bit of consideration about how some of your relationships work can go a long way. Now let's see how this idea of emotional intelligence can combine with Stoicism. The Stoics were not emotionless robots. They understood that we have to make peace with our emotions in order to live a good life. But they didn't endorse all the emotions. They had very particular ideas about how to work with our emotions. The Stoics viewed emotions as judgments or predictions about the future. When you feel angry, you're essentially making a prediction that something bad has happened to you and that you need to fight back. When you feel anxious, you're predicting harm. When you feel jealous, you're predicting that someone else's success threatens your own well-being. The Stoics saw the emotions as predictions. This means a weak emotion is a weak prediction, and a strong emotion is a strong prediction. Generally speaking, a weak prediction is more likely to be correct. If I guess I'm about to have a low-key nice experience, that's more likely to be correct than thinking I'm going to have a world-changing, once-in-a-lifetime experience. I can give an example from my own life here. Recently, my wife and I got a good off-season deal on a fancy hotel. The room was great, and the staff were always asking what they could do to help. We were set up to expect a really, really great experience. But while the people were great, the room itself had issues. The tub didn't drain well. The water wouldn't toggle for the overhead shower. And there was some kind of mechanical knocking sound coming from the wall that came periodically. These were all minor things, not serious problems. But it taught me that when you have very high expectations, very little things can lead to a bad experience. Imagine if I came in euphoric about having the greatest weekend of my life. I probably would have been disappointed. Once you see how emotions are predictions, it becomes easier to understand why milder emotions are more likely to work out. Being extremely pumped up about a date, for example, means that you have to hit it off immediately and probably convert that date into a relationship in order for those expectations to pay off. On the other hand, if you go in not expecting much, having a nice evening can still feel like a win. It's a question of balance. That's why the Stoics taught that some types of emotional reactions fit better with our lives. Some ways of regulating our emotions work better than others. Beyond that, the Stoics distinguished between our initial impressions, which are natural and unavoidable, and our sustained emotional responses, which involve our choice. You can't control that first flash of anger when someone cuts you off in traffic. But you can control whether you feed that anger with narratives like, "This person disrespected me," or "My day is ruined." The really unruly emotions, what the Stoics called passions, were seen as errors to be avoided. These are the emotions that Stoics taught needed to be tamed through reason. These aren't your everyday feelings of happiness, sadness, or mild frustration. They are destructive storms that hijack your thinking, blinding rage, crushing despair, paralyzing anxiety. For obvious reasons, we want to work to drag those back under our control. Another way of putting it is that our emotions need to be the right size to insert properly into our lives. Let's use the example of a car. It has a set rate of speed, somewhere between 1 and 200 miles per hour. You just can't use fuel in a car that would make it go 500 miles per hour. The car can't handle that amount of speed. The most you can do, in fact, is the max speed. It's a hard limit. Fuel made for vehicles which go even faster than that won't work for your car. It may sound cool to talk about a fuel that will make your car go 2,000 miles an hour, but in the real world, that means your car is going to explode. That analogy holds pretty well for your emotions. They need the right fuel, too. What this means is that titanic, planet-sized emotions may not be the right fit for your life. They may not be good for motivation or for action, which is what emotions are supposed to help us do. That's their job. If your current emotions aren't doing the job they are there in your life to do, then may need to be moderated. In our age of Netflix and Amazon Prime, it's easy to think that emotions are here to entertain us. Now, it's true that emotions do a lot to help us unwind and feel things in a safe space. But that's not their only job. Emotions are also here. In fact, mainly here to help us practically in the environment in which we live. If they're doing that, great. If they're not doing that, it's time to give them a hard look. Now, some of you may have a nice setup that works, with strong emotions, that doesn't cause any problems. That's great. But for most people, Most of the time, having strong emotions all the time in regular life can throw things out of balance. They're not really scaled to the life that's going on around you, to the regular life we usually live. So what we want to do is practically apply these components of emotional intelligence together with Stoic wisdom to live our best lives. And for that, we can go down the list with an action plan to help us get more out of emotional perception, understanding, use, and management. The first thing we can do is to get more sensitive about our perception. Most people think they're good at reading emotions, but research shows we're actually terrible at it. We project our own feelings onto others and miss obvious emotional signals right in front of us. The key is to slow down and actually pay attention. When someone says, "I'm fine," in a clipped tone while avoiding eye contact, don't take it at face value. Their body language is telling you the real story. Start with yourself. Throughout your day, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Don't judge it or try to change it. Just notice. You might discover you've been carrying stress in your shoulders for hours without realizing it, or that you're more frustrated than you thought. When it comes to others, focus on incongruence, those moments when someone's words don't match their tone, body language, or facial expression. Second, try to learn more from your emotions. Your emotions are like a sophisticated early warning system. Anxiety isn't an enemy who's trying to harm you. It's information that something might need your attention. Anger often signals that one of your boundaries has been crossed. Excitement can indicate alignment with your values and goals. The Stoics called this the discipline of desire, learning to want what serves you and not want what doesn't. When you feel a strong emotional pull towards something, pause and ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Is it pointing me towards something beneficial or away from something harmful? Let's say you feel intensely jealous of a friend's promotion. That emotion contains information. Maybe it's telling you that you value career advancement more than you realized. Maybe it's revealing that you feel undervalued. Or maybe it's showing you that your sense of self-worth is too tied to external comparisons. The emotion is your messenger. Listen to it, because what you do with that information really matters. Then go beyond that and study the patterns of emotion in your life. Most emotions follow the same repeating patterns, but most of us never learn to recognize them. This is like trying to navigate without understanding how the weather in your area works. You may not be able to predict everything, but you can build a good general knowledge. So, in your life, start tracking your emotional patterns. What consistently triggers strong reactions in you? For many people, it's feeling dismissed, being late, or dealing with incompetence. Once you know your triggers, you can prepare for them. Understanding emotions also means recognizing that they change. That crushing disappointment you feel today will soften. That excitement about a new opportunity will settle into something more manageable. Emotions are temporary weather patterns, not permanent climate conditions. That knowledge can help us with our next step, learning to regulate your emotions. This is where the rubber meets the road. Emotional management is about becoming more skillful with your emotional responses. The Stoics taught that we can't control our initial emotional reactions, but we can control what we do next. That split second between feeling and responding is where your power lives. One practical technique is the pause. When you feel a strong emotion rising, literally say, "Stop," inside your head. Take a breath. Observe what you're feeling and thinking. Then proceed with intention rather than reaction. And remember that emotions are contagious. If someone comes to you angry and you match their energy, you've just amplified the problem. Instead, stay calm and lower your voice slightly. Other people can and will make bad choices, but you can do better. And on that note, now that you know what emotional intelligence is, try to integrate the whole model into your life. You know the 4 components of emotional intelligence, plus Stoic wisdom about emotions as predictions and fuel for action. The final step is to put them all together. Think of it as becoming an emotional athlete. Athletes don't ignore their bodies or let physical sensations overwhelm them. They develop sophisticated awareness of what their body is telling them and use that information to perform better. Emotional intelligent people do the same thing with their feelings. They notice emotions quickly and accurately. They interpret what those emotions mean in context. They understand their patterns and triggers, and they respond in ways that serve their goals and values. Start small. Pick one component of emotional intelligence to focus on this week. Maybe it's simply noticing your emotions 3 times a day. Next week, add another layer. The goal is to continue this daily process until you've included them all. When you combine the practical framework of emotional intelligence with the wisdom of Stoicism, you get something powerful: the ability to feel deeply without being overwhelmed, to care without being controlled, and to respond rather than simply react. That's how you elevate your game on every level. That's how you make more money, build better relationships, and create the kind of life you actually want to live. You were born with emotions, and you've always had them. You always will. That's not the question. The question is whether you'll develop the skills to work with them intelligently or let them work against you. Your emotions are waiting to serve you. Now you know how to put them to work. Leave a comment about how you're doing or your favorite lesson if this helped. If you don't know where to start, think about searching for our video on focus to narrow it down. But most of all, know that you can do this, and that if you persevere, you will succeed. And finally, thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.